Jaden had always known that his family had plans for him that didn't quite include his own opinion. From the moment he could remember, every festival, every dinner, every casual family gathering inevitably ended with the same question, posed with varying degrees of urgency. When will you marry? Human? His parents' voices would ring in his ears, half playful, half insistent, as though they were demanding a universal law be obeyed. Jaden had become a master of evasion over the years, citing late-night work, endless projects, and, most convincingly, the simple desire for freedom.
Humans, he reminded himself often, valued independence, and he was determined to honor that principle.
But the universe, it seemed, had its own plans. It began on an unusually sunny Friday afternoon. Jaden had returned from the market, his hands full of groceries he hadn't needed but had bought anyway to avoid another lecture from his mother about nutrition. As he turned the corner to his apartment, he noticed a small crowd outside his door. His neighbors' expressions were polite but expectant, and his own family stood front and center, their eyes bright with anticipation. "Jaden," his mother called. "We have someone very special for you." Jaden sighed, dropping the groceries with a soft thud. "Really? Someone special?" He rubbed his temples. "Can't I just have one day without this madness?" "Today is the day, human," his father said, placing a firm hand on his shoulder. "You will meet your future partner. You will marry." "It is decided," Jaden groaned. "I didn't agree to anything." His sister, grinning mischievously, waved a small hand. "You don't have a choice. You're human. That's all that matters." Jaden opened his mouth to protest further, but before he could, the air in front of him shimmered. A faint hum grew into a steady vibration, like the pulse of a star. And then, with a soft pop that sounded almost like the gentle snap of fingers, she appeared. She floated a few feet above the ground, a platform of shimmering light keeping her suspended. Her skin was pale silver, smooth and unblemished, and her eyes glowed like liquid topaz. Jaden froze. His mind searched frantically for words, for any way to react, but none came. She looked at him, smiled politely, and tilted her head in a way that was elegant, precise, and entirely alien. A soft buzz in his ear translated her words into something comprehensible.
"Human, I am Lyra."
"I accept your arranged union." Jaden blinked, twice, maybe 3 times.
"Wait, what?" His parents clapped.
His sister squealed. Even the neighbors looked mildly confused, though fascinated. "It's perfect," his mother said. "She's from the Andromedan colonies."
"Very prestigious, you'll see, human."
"This is a great honor." Jaden's stomach churned. "Prestigious? Great honor?"
"I'm marrying an alien?"
He pinched the bridge of his nose. The idea seemed impossible, absurd, and yet undeniably real. Lyra looked at him again, eyes calm and patient, waiting for a response. Hello? He managed, finally. His voice sounded small even to him. "Greetings, human," Lyra said, her voice melodic and soft. "I understand this is unusual in your culture. I am prepared to adapt." Jaden laughed nervously, running a hand through his hair.
"Adapt? I'm not even sure how I'm supposed to,
"Marry an alien." Lyra tilted her head. "Marriage is a human social custom. I am here to participate as you deem appropriate." His parents beamed proudly. "See?" "She understands. This is going to be wonderful." Jaden's mind raced. He had read about interstellar alliances, treaties between human colonies and distant species, but this was supposed to be political, strategic, not a marriage. He felt like a child who had been enrolled in a class he never signed up for, and yet, as he looked at Lyra, her serene composure and glowing eyes, he noticed something else. She wasn't intimidating or frightening. She was curious, and curiosity, Jaden thought was dangerous. The next few days passed in a blur. Lyra moved into a small apartment with ease, the air in the room shifting as if her presence alone adjusted the temperature and gravity subtly to suit her. She unpacked her belongings, which included a collection of crystalline instruments that hummed softly, devices that seemed to defy explanation, and garments that shimmered with colors humans had yet to name. Jaden tried not to stare too obviously. "You do not need to be startled," Lyra said calmly when she noticed him gawking at a floating orb that had begun to circle the room. "This is how my people organize their personal spaces." Jaden nodded slowly. "Right. Floating things. Of course." Living together quickly became an exercise in learning, adaptation, and cultural shock. Lyra had 6 fingers on each hand, each capable of independent movement, which she often used to perform delicate tasks in ways that seemed impossible to Jaden. She could rotate her head almost completely backward, a feature that made him nervous during long conversations, and when she slept, she often stood upright, balancing perfectly on the tips of her feet with her eyes closed, radiating an aura of calm precision. Jaden attempted to explain human customs. "No, Lyra, you can't bend the walls to fit your yoga mat."
Lyra looked genuinely puzzled. Why limit the wall's potential?
"They are stable and strong. They can accommodate more than one shape." He pinched the bridge of his nose again. "Humans adapt. Humans survive. Humans deal with the absurd." Buzz with a... But this is beyond absurd. Despite the challenges, Lyra displayed a fascination for human culture that was almost infectious. She laughed at his awkward jokes, even when they fell flat. She marveled at movies, music, and the strange ritual of ordering takeout. Spicy food was a particular fascination. Jaden watched in awe as she took tentative bites of chili, her eyes widening, and then a small spark of delight flashing in her topaz eyes. One evening, Jaden asked cautiously, "So, you're really okay with all this? You don't mind being human adjacent for a while?" Lyra tilted her head. "Your species is unpredictable. That is interesting."
I am curious to learn more. It is not unpleasant.
Jaden felt a small surge of relief. "Okay. Maybe this won't be completely disastrous." Still, the neighbors were less enthusiastic. Rumors began to circulate almost immediately. Children whispered about the shiny lady from space who lived in his apartment. Adults muttered about intergalactic scandals, inappropriate unions, and cosmic missteps. But Lyra paid them no mind. She walked through the hallways with the same serene confidence, her presence commanding respect without demanding it. And Jaden realized something profound. Humans often worried too much about what others thought, about appearances, protocols, and reputations. Lyra didn't. She acted according to reason, curiosity, and instinct, qualities humans valued, but often failed to embody consistently. One night, as they prepared dinner together, she carefully chopped vegetables with 6-fingered precision. Jaden stirred a pot of soup, trying not to spill it as Lyra's tail-like appendage, a feature he was slowly learning to accept, moved gracefully around the kitchen.
You humans make things so
"Complicated," she remarked. Jaden chuckled.
We have a lot of rules, mostly stupid ones. And yet you seem content navigating them, she said, placing a perfectly cut carrot into the simmering soup.
He thought about it. Humans were resilient, stubborn, resourceful. Even when things seemed impossible, humans found a way to continue, to adapt, to survive. And perhaps, he realized, that was what made him feel not entirely overwhelmed. Because if anyone could teach an alien how to live on Earth, it was a human. Over the next few days, Jaden began to notice subtle changes in himself. He laughed more, felt lighter in his chest, and even started to enjoy the novelty of teaching Lyra about human customs. From the trivial, like shaking hands without crushing bones, to the complex, like understanding sarcasm, irony, and emotional nuance. His family watched proudly, noting every small success. His mother beamed at how polite Lyra was. His father nodded approvingly at the way she adapted to earthly meals, and his sister teased gently, "You might actually survive this marriage, human." Jaden smirked at the jab, but felt a small, unfamiliar warmth. Perhaps survival wasn't the goal anymore. Perhaps learning, adapting, and even enjoying the chaos was. And then came the moment that made everything feel real. Lyra stepped outside onto the balcony, her topaz eyes scanning the city below. The air shimmered slightly around her as if responding to her presence. Jaden joined her, leaning against the railing. "You seem different than I imagined, humans," Lyra said softly.
I'm different than you imagined, humans, Jaden replied. They laughed,
And in that laughter, Jaden realized that the strange, sudden, utterly unpredictable journey his family had forced upon him might not be so bad after all. He was marrying an alien, that was certain. But he was also learning something remarkable. Humans, in all their messy, stubborn, passionate glory, had something worth sharing. Something that transcended planets, species, and even common sense. And for the first time in a long while, Jaden felt genuinely excited about the future. Because if humans could survive their own family's insistence, perhaps they could survive anything, even interstellar marriage. Living with Lyra was an adventure unlike anything Jaden had ever experienced. The first morning after she had moved in, he woke to the faint hum of her crystalline instruments vibrating gently in the corner of the apartment. The sun streamed through the windows, and the smell of something unfamiliar yet pleasant drifted through the air. He blinked, still groggy, and tried to remember what he had agreed to.
"Good morning, human," Lyra said, her melodic voice echoing softly in the small kitchen. She was standing perfectly upright, arms folded, observing the toaster with an expression that seemed both analytical and curious.
I have calculated your breakfast options and optimized them for nutritional balance and flavor combination. Jaden rubbed his eyes. You?
Optimized my toast? Yes, Lyra replied calmly. I have applied thermal and temporal adjustments to ensure maximal crispiness without burning. Would you like me to demonstrate? Jaden groaned, running a hand through his hair. No, it's fine. Just normal toast will do. As he poured coffee into his mug, he realized quickly that normal was a relative term in this apartment. Lyra's presence bent the rules of reality in subtle, almost imperceptible ways. Gravity in her personal space seemed slightly variable, enough that small objects hovered briefly before settling. Her movements were fluid, precise, and alien, yet somehow graceful. And her fascination with earthly routines, from brushing teeth to folding laundry, was both endearing and overwhelming. When Jaden tried to explain simple human rules, the results were unpredictable.
"Lyra," he said one afternoon, "you can't just rearrange the furniture every time you feel like it. This is my apartment."
Lyra tilted her head, eyes glowing softly. Why not? Furniture is not inherently stationary. Stability can be achieved in multiple configurations. This arrangement maximizes space efficiency and energy flow. Jaden stared at the couch, which now floated 3 inches off the ground at a slight angle. Energy flow. Right. Despite the confusion, there was something deeply human about their interactions. Lyra's curiosity sparked long conversations, and Jaden found himself laughing more than he had in months. She asked endless questions about human behavior, rituals, and traditions, approaching each explanation with an analytical mind but a surprisingly playful tone. Why do humans clap when they enjoy something? She asked one evening as they watched a music video on a small screen.
"It's complicated," Jaden replied, laughing. "It's a mix of social signaling, emotional release, and habit. Basically, we make a lot of noise to show we like things." Lyra considered this.
Then she clapped. perfectly synchronized with the beat of the music, her 6 fingers moving in ways that made the sound sharper and brighter than normal. Jaden watched, amazed.
Okay, that's actually kind of impressive. The neighbors, however, were less impressed. Rumors spread quickly about the shiny alien lady living in Jaden's apartment.
Children stared and pointed. Adults whispered, and someone even left a note slipped under his door suggesting he reconsider his life choices. But Lyra remained unfazed. She moved through the building with quiet confidence, never speaking to anyone who didn't directly engage her, never reacting to judgment or gossip. Jaden realized he had never seen someone so completely indifferent to social pressure, and he admired it. Meals were another source of discovery and chaos. Lyra approached cooking like a scientific experiment, combining ingredients in ways Jaden never thought possible. One night, she presented him with a salad that shimmered faintly and seemed to rearrange itself on the plate.
This will provide balanced nutrition and enhance your mood through calculated molecular interactions, she said proudly.
Jaden poked at it cautiously. And it tastes okay? It is acceptable, she said.
Your taste receptors indicate slight pleasure, correct? He laughed. Yes.
Slightly. But it's different. Over time, he began to appreciate these differences. Life with Lyra was unpredictable, yes, but also full of wonder. The smallest tasks became adventures. Folding laundry became a lesson in geometry. Cooking turned into a chemistry experiment. And even watching TV became an exercise in cultural exchange. She asked questions he hadn't even considered, and in answering them, he began to see humanity and himself in a new light. One afternoon, Jaden returned from work to find Lyra standing on the balcony watching the sunset. The city below was bathed in golden light, and she seemed almost to glow in response.
Do humans always appreciate such fleeting moments? She asked softly.
Jaden leaned against the railing beside her. We don't always notice them.
We're usually too busy worrying or rushing around, but sometimes, yeah.
Sometimes we stop and look. Lyra tilted her head, thoughtful. It is beautiful.
I can see why humans create art to capture it, even if imperfectly.
Yes, Jaden said quietly. We try. We often fail, but we try.
Her eyes met his, and for a moment, the apartment, the city, and even the universe seemed to pause. There was a quiet understanding between them, unspoken but deeply felt. Jaden realized that, strange as it seemed, he was beginning to care for her, not because he had to, not because his family insisted, but because living with her had revealed something fundamental about humans, their ability to connect, to adapt, to love in messy, unpredictable ways. And Lyra, he noted, seemed to understand that instinctively. But it wasn't all calm. The first real challenge came sooner than expected. A neighboring alien delegation, consisting of several species from different planets, arrived unannounced at the apartment building. They were shocked, scandalized, and visibly upset that a human and an Andromedon were cohabiting, much less forming a marital bond.
This is improper, one of them hissed, a tall, green-scaled creature with luminescent eyes. She must return to her home planet immediately.
This union violates interstellar custom. Jaden's stomach dropped. He could feel the weight of expectation pressing down on him. Not just his own family's, but humanity's reputation, Earth's pride, even his own fear. He opened his mouth to defend Lyra, but froze when he saw her stance. She was calm, confident, and unyielding, facing the delegation as though their rules were suggestions, not commands.
I will not leave without my human partner,
Lyra said firmly, her voice resonating in a way that made the aliens pause.
We are equals in this arrangement.
Your customs are noted, but do not compel my actions. Jaden's heart swelled with admiration.
Humans were stubborn, yes, but Lyra's presence highlighted a truth he had always taken for granted. Humans were adaptable.
Humans could endure, confront, and survive even the most absurd challenges. And humans loved fiercely in ways that could challenge even the most rigid rules of alien protocol. He took a deep breath, finding courage he hadn't known he possessed. "Listen," he began, trying to keep his voice steady. "This is my apartment. Lyra chose to be here, and I'm not going to let anyone, alien or not, dictate what that means." The delegation looked at him in disbelief. You are only human," one of them said incredulously. "How dare you defy us?" Jaden smiled faintly.
Exactly. I am human.
"And humans, we do what we must." It was a small victory, but a victory nonetheless. The delegation, confused and uncertain how to proceed, eventually left, muttering about peculiar humans and dangerously unpredictable behavior. Jaden turned to Lyra, who was watching him quietly, and felt a rush of pride. "You handled that well," she said softly.
Humans are resilient,
Jaden chuckled.
we try.
"Mostly. But so do you, in your own way. I think we might just get along." The next few days were filled with adjustments. Lyra continued to explore human routines with fascination, while Jaden learned to accept the unpredictability of her abilities. She rearranged furniture, experimented with cooking, and even attempted to help him with his work. Not always successfully, but always with good intentions. One evening, as they sat together on the balcony watching the city lights flicker to life, Lyra asked, "Do humans always find comfort in chaos?"
Jaden thought about it. Life was messy, unpredictable, and often unfair.
But humans had a way of persevering, adapting, and finding joy even in the smallest things. "I guess we do," he said quietly. "We make the best of what we have."
Lyra nodded, as though considering this carefully. "Then I will learn from you, human."
"Perhaps I can find comfort in your chaos as well." Jaden smiled, feeling a warmth that had little to do with the evening air. Humans were capable of many things, but connection, resilience, and adaptability were their greatest strengths, and somehow, he realized, he had found someone who could not only witness those strengths but also appreciate them, even enhance them. Living with Lyra was challenging, yes. Confusing, yes. Occasionally terrifying, certainly. But it was also exhilarating, full of laughter, discovery, and lessons he never expected to learn. He began to understand that life with her was not about control, order, or perfection. It was about embracing the unknown, navigating it together, and finding joy in unexpected places. And in that realization, Jaden found something remarkable. He was beginning to care, not because he had to, not because his family demanded it, but because Lyra had opened a door to something deeper, a bond that transcended species, culture, and expectation. For the first time, he felt that perhaps marriage wasn't just a family mandate. Perhaps it could be something extraordinary. And perhaps, he thought with a small smile, humans could survive anything, even interstellar marriage, if they approached it with patience, humor, and an open heart. Life had settled into a strange rhythm for Jaden and Lyra, though settled was a relative term.
Their days were a mixture of learning, adjusting, and occasional surprises.
Lyra had grown more confident with human routines, though she still occasionally rotated her head in a way that made Jaden do a double-take. Jaden, in turn, had grown more patient, learning to accept her quirks without complaint. Together, they were learning that living between worlds was not only possible, it could even be enjoyable. But peace rarely lasted for long when humans were involved. It began when Jaden received a message from work, urgent and unusual. An alien research delegation was arriving in the city to observe human-alien relations firsthand. They were a mixed group from multiple planets, and their expectations were complicated. They had heard of his marriage to Lyra and were curious, skeptical, and perhaps even a little judgmental. Jaden frowned. "I don't know if I want strangers inspecting our life," he muttered to Lyra as he showed her the message. Lyra tilted her head, a small smile forming on her lips.
Inspection is an opportunity to demonstrate capability, human.
Do you wish to hide or to show?
He blinked. Show? I guess?
But how do we show that we're normal? Normal is irrelevant, Lyra said softly. We demonstrate reality as it exists. That is sufficient. And so, a week later, the delegation arrived. They stepped into his apartment cautiously, their movements precise and measured. One of them, a tall creature with translucent skin that shimmered with internal bioluminescence, whispered to another in a language Jaden didn't understand. The tension was immediate. D-J-N-G-A. D-A-A.
This is my home, and this is Lyra.
Lyra inclined her head gracefully. Greetings. We are pleased to host you. The delegation stared at her, then at him, then back again. There were audible murmurs, clicks, and hisses, sounds Jaden could barely comprehend. One of the delegates finally spoke through a translator. You are a human. And she is from Andromeda.
How?
Jaden shrugged. We live together. We learn from each other. We try to be partners. Lyra added, we embrace our differences. That is how understanding grows. The delegation looked skeptical. They had visited countless human colonies, observed diplomacy, and studied alliances. Humans were often underestimated, considered fragile, unpredictable, or inferior in some ways. But here, standing before them, was proof of something entirely different. Jaden invited them to sit and have a meal. Lyra prepared it with precision and care, presenting dishes that were a combination of human comfort food and alien culinary science. One dish glowed faintly, a small orb of flavored light that hovered above the plate before dissolving into the salad. The delegates eyed it suspiciously, but Jaden watched as Lyra explained every detail with calm confidence. This demonstrates not only nutrition, but balance and harmony in consumption, she said.
Observe how flavors and nutrients interact.
One of the delegates tried it hesitantly, then another, and finally they nodded in silent approval. Jaden realized then that humans had an advantage that the galaxy often overlooked: creativity. When faced with strange challenges, humans improvised. They experimented. They connected ideas that others considered incompatible. And now, in a small apartment on Earth, he saw the proof firsthand. A human and an alien, coexisting and thriving, teaching, learning, and laughing together. Later that evening, the delegation requested a demonstration of human social interaction. Jaden frowned. Social interaction? What do they mean? Lyra smiled. They wish to understand how humans relate to one another. Perhaps observing me will clarify. Jaden raised an eyebrow. You're supposed to be learning, not performing. I am demonstrating adaptability, Lyra replied smoothly. Observe and learn, human. They gathered in the living room, and Jaden realized quickly that the delegation was expecting some kind of structured performance. Protocols, gestures, predictable behavior. Instead, what he offered was chaos. Music played. Lyra clapped along, slightly offbeat at first, but gradually syncing perfectly. He tried to teach her a human game called charades, which she approached with analytical precision, turning it into something hilariously unfamiliar. The delegation watched, uncertain how to react, as the two humans moved with energy, laughter, and unpredictability.
Your species is confounding,
one of them whispered.
Humans adapt, Jaden said proudly. We improvise.
We survive. The delegation exchanged glances. They had expected simplicity. They had expected protocol. They had not expected this. As the evening continued, Jaden noticed something remarkable. Lyra had begun to teach them as much as she had learned. She explained alien concepts using human metaphors, creating connections that made the delegates laugh, frown, and sometimes just stare in awe. Her patience and curiosity were infectious. Slowly, the delegation's skepticism began to soften. By the end of the night, something had shifted. They had come expecting judgment and criticism, but what they found instead was collaboration, humor, and a mutual willingness to learn. It was chaotic, imperfect, but undeniably effective. Jaden watched the aliens leave, quietly impressed, and realized that humans had a subtle power, the ability to inspire others, even through sheer unpredictability. The next morning, Jaden found himself reflecting on the events of the previous night. Lyra was in the kitchen, chopping vegetables with six-fingered precision, humming softly to herself. She looked up. "You performed admirably, human. Your species' ability to navigate chaos is remarkable." Jaden smiled. "Thanks. You were pretty amazing yourself." Lyra tilted her head. "I learned from you as well. Humans are surprisingly resilient, perhaps more than I anticipated." Resilient. The word struck him. That was what humans were. They endured family pressures, societal expectations, and absurd circumstances with humor, ingenuity, and heart. And when they were underestimated, they adapted and thrived. That evening, they went for a walk through the city. Lyra observed everything with curiosity, the patterns of traffic, the architecture, the way humans moved and interacted. She asked questions about everything, from why people queued politely at crosswalks to why street performers drew crowds. Jaden answered, explaining not only the facts, but the human tendencies behind them. The stubbornness, the desire to connect, the humor hidden in everyday life. "You humans are unpredictable," she said thoughtfully. "Yet there is structure within the chaos. It is fascinating." "That's just how we survive," Jaden replied. "Life throws things at us. We deal with them. Sometimes we fail, sometimes we win, but we keep going." Lyra considered this quietly. Perhaps that is why humans endure where others might fail. You persist, adapt, and innovate. You survive, and you thrive. Jaden felt a sense of pride, subtle but deep.
It wasn't just that he had learned to live with an alien.
It was that he had learned something essential about his species, about humanity itself. Even when underestimated, even when challenged, humans found a way forward. And when they cared deeply, they could achieve extraordinary things, often in ways others couldn't predict. Back at the apartment, they prepared dinner together, the familiar hum of Lyra's instruments creating a soft backdrop. Jaden chopped vegetables, Lyra organized flavors, and together they built a meal that was both familiar and alien, human and Andromedan. It was messy, unpredictable, and perfect in its imperfection.
Do you think the galaxy will ever understand humans?
Jaden asked casually as he stirred the soup. Lyra paused, considering. Perhaps not fully, but it is not necessary for understanding. What matters is action, demonstration, and persistence. Humans show their strength without asking permission to be understood. Jaden smiled, realizing that she had captured the essence of HFY better than he ever could. Humans didn't always wait for validation. They acted. They endured. They connected. They thrived. And sometimes, in doing so, they surprised everyone, including themselves. That night, as they sat on the balcony watching the city lights flicker, Jaden felt a quiet certainty. The challenges were far from over. Life with Lyra was unpredictable, full of surprises, and sometimes chaotic. But it was also exhilarating, full of laughter, discovery, and moments that reminded him why humans could endure anything. "Do you enjoy chaos?" Lyra asked softly. Jaden considered it. "I don't know if I'd call it enjoyment, but I've learned it can be rewarding, especially when you have someone to navigate it with." Lyra's eyes gleamed. Then we shall continue, human, together. Jaden laughed softly, a sound of contentment and quiet pride. Together they had shown the first real proof to the galaxy that humans were more than what outsiders assumed. Unpredictable, yes. Stubborn, certainly, but endlessly resilient, clever, and capable of adaptation that few could anticipate. And in that proof, Jaden realized something extraordinary. Living with Lyra, facing challenges, and embracing the chaos wasn't just a personal journey. It was a testament to what humans could achieve anywhere in the universe, no matter how alien or unfamiliar the circumstances. He watched Lyra carefully as she adjusted the balcony railing, her movements precise, yet gentle. For the first time, he didn't see just an alien learning from him. He saw a partner, a collaborator, and a witness to the extraordinary nature of humanity. Humans survived. Humans adapted. Humans thrived. And in this small corner of the city, two unlikely beings had begun to demonstrate that truth. One meal, one laugh, and one act of stubborn resilience at a time. The news of Jaden's unusual marriage had begun to spread far beyond the confines of his apartment building. What had started as whispers in his neighborhood and curiosity from a small alien delegation now became a topic of discussion across interstellar networks. Human-alien unions were rare, but a human successfully cohabiting and thriving with an Andromedan was unprecedented. Observers from countless worlds began to tune in, sending scholars, diplomats, and cultural analysts to understand what they considered an anomaly. At first, Jaden had ignored it, preferring to focus on the day-to-day challenges of living with Lyra. But soon, the reality could no longer be avoided. His inbox filled with messages from curious officials and researchers. Holographic transmissions from alien media beamed into his apartment, each asking questions ranging from the mundane to the absurd. How did they manage household chores? How did they communicate? How did a human and an Andromedan navigate intimacy, emotion, and daily life? Lyra, as always, took it in stride. They seek data, human. We provide observation. Jaden shook his head. We're not a research experiment. We're us. That is precisely why they observe, Lyra said calmly. You are extraordinary in your ordinariness. The phrase lingered in Jaden's mind. Extraordinary in ordinariness. Perhaps that was what made humans remarkable. Ordinary humans lived messy, unpredictable lives, yet they could endure challenges, adapt to change, and form connections that no rule or protocol could anticipate. That was their strength. The first real recognition of this came when a prominent Andromedan scholar, Dr. Talrin, requested a formal visit. He arrived with a small entourage of assistants and cultural experts, all curious to study the human capacity for adaptation. Dr. Talrin was a tall figure with translucent skin that flickered with internal light. His 6 arms folded as he approached. Greetings, Jaden, he said through the translator. We have observed many human colonies, but few examples match the phenomenon here. You have lived with Lyra for months, successfully navigating social, emotional, and practical challenges. Explain yourself.
Jaden took a deep breath. I'm just doing my best.
Lyra and I try to understand each other. We argue sometimes, laugh a lot, and adapt as needed. That's what humans do. We survive, learn, and keep going. Dr. Talrin tilted his head.
Survival and adaptation are noted.
But cooperation with an Andromedan, without external oversight? That is unprecedented. It's really not that complicated, Jaden said with a shrug, though his pulse quickened. We care about each other and we try to work together. That's all it takes. Lyra stepped forward. Observation can be informative, but living requires experience. Humans do not ask permission to endure or adapt. They act, they innovate, they persist. Doctor. Talrin's eyes widened slightly. He had studied humans for decades, but hearing it explained from the perspective of both a human and an Andromedan partner offered new insight. The scholar's assistant scribbled notes furiously. Jaden realized that something small and personal in their apartment was now making ripples across the galaxy. The attention didn't stop there. Alien diplomats from neighboring systems requested interviews. Scholars wrote papers about human resilience, adaptability, and emotional intelligence. Even scientists began to compare humans with other species in terms of creativity, problem-solving, and collaboration. And through it all, Lyra remained calm, poised, and endlessly curious. One afternoon, Jaden and Lyra were preparing lunch when a holographic message arrived from a distant planetary council. It was a formal request for them to demonstrate human decision-making and adaptability in a simulated crisis scenario. Jaden groaned. "What now?" he muttered. Lyra smiled gently.
It is an opportunity. Humans excel in unpredictability.
They are creative, resourceful, and courageous. You will perform well.
Jaden laughed nervously. "I don't know if I'm ready to be humanity's poster child. You are already doing so by living," Lyra said softly.
The simulation was set up in a large observation chamber. Jaden and Lyra were given a scenario: a malfunctioning space station threatened by a meteor shower, with limited resources, alien species on board, and rapidly changing conditions.
The objective was simple: survive and protect all lives.
The delegation expected humans to struggle, to panic, or to fail entirely. What they didn't anticipate was how Jaden's creativity and Lyra's analytical skills complemented each other. Jaden quickly assessed the situation, proposing unconventional but effective solutions. He suggested rerouting power from non-essential systems, using emergency pods in ways not specified in the protocols, and improvising communication between different species aboard the station. Lyra implemented the solutions with precision, her movements efficient, and her calculations flawless. Delegates gasped as humans and Andromedans worked together seamlessly. Where the simulation's algorithms predicted failure, they succeeded. Systems stabilized, emergencies were averted, and all lives were saved. The delegation stared in disbelief. This is impossible, one of the observers whispered. Humans should have failed. They did not fail, Lyra said, her voice calm. They adapt, improvise, and act with resolve. That is their strength. Jaden felt a swell of pride. He had always known humans were capable, but seeing the galaxy realize it in real time was surreal. Humans had survived impossible odds before, on Earth, in wars, in exploration. Their resilience, stubbornness, and ingenuity were now undeniable. Word of their success spread quickly. Reports described humans as unpredictable, yet highly effective, creative beyond expectation, and dangerously resourceful. Political analysts began to reconsider human potential in interstellar diplomacy and strategy. Lyra's homeworld sent further delegations, some curious, some wary, but all respectful. Through it all, life at home remained familiar. Jaden and Lyra continued their routines, cooking, laughing, and navigating daily life together. The world outside might have been watching and judging, but inside their apartment, they simply lived. And in that living, they demonstrated humanity at its finest: adaptable, resilient, compassionate, and clever. One evening, as they watched the city lights flicker through the windows, Lyra spoke quietly.
The galaxy notices humans now. They see your adaptability, creativity, and courage.
But they do not yet understand your true strength. Jaden frowned. And what is that? Lyra's eyes glowed softly. Your ability to act without certainty, to face danger with humor and stubbornness, and to connect with others despite differences. You endure, human. You adapt. You thrive. And in doing so, you inspire. Jaden considered her words. Perhaps that was why he had survived his family's insistence, The chaos of living with an alien and the endless scrutiny of outsiders. Humans didn't always have the best tools or the clearest plans. They didn't always succeed on the first try, but they persisted. They improvised. They loved. And that made them extraordinary. The following week, they received a formal invitation from a galactic council to discuss human potential in interstellar affairs. The request acknowledged humans' creativity, resilience, and unexpected effectiveness in crises. Jaden laughed quietly. I can't believe this. Me, a human from Earth, now advising a galactic council. Lyra smiled. You demonstrate the strength of your species simply by being yourself, human. You do not need to perform. You need only exist, act, and endure. Jaden felt a quiet satisfaction. Humans were often underestimated, dismissed as fragile or illogical. But in the small apartment they shared, humans had proven something vital. Their spirit was unyielding, their creativity unmatched, and their capacity to adapt and thrive limitless. The galaxy was beginning to notice, and perhaps even respect, the potential that Earthlings had always known, but often taken for granted. That night, as they prepared dinner, Lyra asked, Do you feel proud, human? Jaden paused, thinking about the months that had passed, the challenges, the laughter, the alien delegations, and the small victories that had grown into recognition across planets. Not just for me, but for humans in general. We're more capable than most people give us credit for. Lyra reached out, touching his hand gently. Indeed. And now, others are beginning to see what you always knew. The first time, Jaden realized that their marriage was not just a personal journey. It was proof of something larger. Humans, despite their flaws, limitations, and occasional stubbornness, could thrive in ways the galaxy had not anticipated. They were resourceful, courageous, and endlessly adaptable. And when paired with the right partner, even an alien, they could achieve the impossible. As the city lights shimmered outside their window, Jaden felt a sense of quiet triumph. Humans had survived scrutiny, skepticism, and challenges beyond their comprehension. Now, the galaxy had begun to understand what made them extraordinary, and in the warmth of their home, with Lyra by his side, Jaden knew that the most important lesson of all was simple. Humans could survive anything, adapt to anything, and thrive anywhere. And perhaps, in that survival, they could teach the universe a thing or two about resilience, creativity, and the power of connection. Months had passed since the galaxy had begun to notice Jaden and Lyra. The attention that once felt intrusive had become almost routine. Delegates from distant worlds visited regularly, curious to witness the strange partnership that defied expectations. Scholars wrote reports, diplomats requested interviews, and even military observers took note of humans' resourcefulness. But Jaden and Lyra were no longer merely subjects of curiosity. They were symbols of what humanity could achieve. The announcement came one morning as Jaden prepared breakfast. A hollow screen flickered to life above the counter, displaying a formal message from the Galactic Council. The message was simple, yet profound. Humanity is to be recognized as a strategic and cultural partner in interstellar affairs, based on demonstrated resilience, adaptability, and ingenuity. Jaden laughed aloud, spilling coffee across the counter. Resilience, adaptability, ingenuity, all because of me and my apartment?
This is insane.
Lyra tilted her head, a faint smile on her lips.
Not merely because of this apartment, human. The galaxy has observed how you live, act, and endure.
Your species' qualities are now undeniable. You are extraordinary in ways they had not expected. Jaden felt a strange mixture of pride and disbelief. He had lived his life quietly, focusing on work, family, and now, a marriage he never imagined. And yet, here was proof that humans, messy, stubborn, unpredictable, emotional humans, had earned recognition across the stars. Preparations began for a ceremonial event. a celebration that would formally recognize humanity's achievements and adaptability. Delegates from countless worlds gathered, some skeptical, some curious, but all eager to witness the human-alien partnership that had defied expectations. Jaden and Lyra were asked to host the event, a responsibility that both thrilled and terrified him. The day arrived. The hall was enormous, a gleaming structure of crystal and metal that reflected light in every color imaginable. Species from dozens of planets filled the seats, their eyes fixed on the stage where humans and aliens alike would gather. Jaden felt his palms sweat. He glanced at Lyra, who remained calm, adjusting her attire with graceful precision. "You'll be fine," she whispered.
You always have been.
Jaden smiled faintly. Let's hope the galaxy agrees.
The ceremony began with speeches praising human resilience and ingenuity.
Observers recounted stories of Jaden's clever solutions during simulated crises, Lyra's ability to integrate with human life, and the remarkable adaptability humans demonstrated in everyday challenges. What struck the audience most was not just the accomplishments themselves, but the unexpected manner in which humans achieved them. Through creativity, humor, collaboration, and stubborn determination. When it was their turn to speak, Jaden stepped forward. He glanced at Lyra, then at the assembly of countless species. His voice was steady, though his heart raced. "Humans," he began, "are not perfect. We make mistakes, we argue, we fail sometimes. But we never give up. We adapt. We learn. We survive. And when we care, we act. We connect. We try our best, even when the odds are impossible."
He paused, letting the words sink in.
The room was silent, all eyes on him. Lyra joined him, her presence calm and dignified. The galaxy has seen human ingenuity, resilience, and adaptability firsthand. But the true strength of your species lies not only in problem-solving, but in the ability to persevere, to connect, and to inspire others. Humans endure, human actions influence, and human hearts transform.
Jaden felt a surge of pride.
Not for himself, not for recognition, but for humanity, the species that had survived countless challenges, explored new worlds, and now, in its own small way, had proven its worth to the universe. Delegates began to nod, some murmuring in approval, others whispering translations in alien tongues. Slowly, the hall erupted into applause. Species from worlds that had once doubted humans now stood, acknowledging what had been clear to Jaden all along. Humans were extraordinary. The event continued with demonstrations, cultural exchanges, and shared stories. Lyra performed a small ritual from her homeworld, explaining its significance while connecting it to human practices. Jaden guided groups through Earth games, showing how creativity, humor, and collaboration worked hand in hand. Delegates laughed, learned, and sometimes failed, but the lesson was clear. Humans and their methods, while unpredictable, were effective. As the ceremony drew to a close, Jaden and Lyra were invited to the balcony overlooking the city. Below, the lights flickered like stars, mirroring the galaxy beyond. Lyra turned to him, her topaz eyes shining. "You have demonstrated what humans can achieve, human," she said softly. "The galaxy now recognizes the strength, creativity, and resilience of your species." Jaden smiled, feeling the weight of everything they had endured, learned, and accomplished.
It's more than I ever imagined.
And it's not just me. It's all humans. Our ability to endure, adapt, and care. It's who we are. Lyra nodded. Indeed. And now humanity has a voice in the wider universe. Not because of power or size, but because of spirit and action. That is the true measure of strength. Jaden thought about the months that had passed, the awkward first meeting, the chaos of shared living, the challenges of interacting with alien visitors, and the small victories that had grown into galactic recognition. Humanity had survived scrutiny, skepticism, and every unexpected challenge the galaxy had thrown their way. And in doing so, they had demonstrated qualities no technology or weapon could replicate: creativity, resilience, and heart. He realized that the universe had always underestimated humans, assuming weakness where there was adaptability, fear where there was courage, and chaos where there was creativity. And now, finally, others were beginning to see the truth. The celebration continued late into the night. Delegates shared meals, exchanged stories, and engaged in games and challenges designed to highlight human ingenuity. Jaden watched, laughing as Lyra participated fully, her analytical mind finding joy in unpredictability. They worked together seamlessly, teaching, learning, and demonstrating the power of collaboration across species. At one point, a young alien from a neighboring system approached Jaden, eyes wide with admiration. "Your species, humans. They are remarkable."
How do you manage it? Jaden smiled. We try.
We care. We care. We care. We fail, we succeed, and we never stop moving forward. That's all. Lyra added, and humans inspire others not by force, but by action, by persistence, and by connection. They endure, they adapt, and they thrive. The young alien nodded slowly, a new understanding dawning. Jaden realized that this was the most important lesson of all. Human strength was not measured by technology or weapons, but by spirit, adaptability, and the ability to connect with others, even across species. As the crowd began to disperse, Jaden and Lyra stood together, looking out over the city. Below, Earth pulsed with life, its lights reflecting the endless possibilities of the universe. And above, the stars glimmered, filled with species that now held a new respect for humanity. "You know," Jaden said quietly, "my family started all of this. They forced me into this marriage." Lyra laughed softly, a sound that made him smile. "Indeed, sometimes family's insistence leads to unexpected outcomes, human." "And here we are," Jaden said, gazing at the stars. "Humans recognized across the galaxy." Me married to an alien. Who would have thought? Lyra tilted her head, her expression gentle and wise. "It is not who would have thought, human. It is what has been achieved, and that is extraordinary."
Jaden nodded.
He realized that HFY was not just a slogan or a feeling. It was the truth of humanity, expressed in resilience, creativity, humor, and connection. Humans had survived, adapted, and thrived against odds, expectations, and even their own chaotic nature, and in doing so, they had earned a place in the universe that was not given, but deserved. As they returned to their apartment that night, hand in hand, the lights of the city twinkling below, Jaden felt a quiet satisfaction. They had faced scrutiny, challenges, and doubt, and emerged stronger. Humans had proven that they were not to be underestimated. Lyra looked at him, her topaz eyes glowing softly. "Do you understand now, human? You and your species are extraordinary, not because of power, not because of size, not because of dominance, but because of endurance, adaptability, and heart."
Jaden smiled. "I think I finally get it."
Humans can survive anything. We adapt. We endure. And we thrive. And maybe, just maybe, we can teach the universe a little about that too. Lyra smiled, reaching out to take his hand. Together, human, that is the most powerful strength of all. And in that moment, as the city hummed below and the stars sparkled above, Jaden knew something profound. Humanity had finally shown the universe what it was capable of. Not through weapons, politics, or technology alone, but through spirit, creativity, resilience, and the ability to connect across worlds. The galaxy had noticed. The galaxy had learned. and in the quiet corners of an apartment in a bustling city, a human and an alien had proven the enduring truth of HFY. Underestimate humans at your peril, because humans survived, humans adapted, humans thrived, and the universe would never forget it.